The audio ad creative process starts with the words. Writing an audio ad that engages your audience and encourages them to do or feel what you want them to is a special skill. And in this episode, we look at the script writing process itself and ask, do words really matter? I'm Matt Hopper, creative director and co-founder of the audio agency Trisonic. And my guests are Debbie Dillon, creative head at BBC Creative, and creative consultant Kieran Murphy.
Let's talk about the writing process itself. So, say a client comes along and says, I'd like to write my own script. Why do I need an expert to write it? Can I not do it myself? How would you respond to that?
I think, go ahead. Let's have a look at what you've got. And then we'll talk about it and see whether or not that is the best thing, the best way of promoting your business and engaging people to want to use your business. This comes up quite a lot because working within the BBC and promoting programmes, you often get people who are brilliant at making half-hour programmes, 1-hour programmes, but then there's the skill of distilling that message down to 30 seconds in audio only that they don't necessarily have. They know their programme and they're brilliant at doing long form, and they need a specialist who is used to writing shorter messages to help them do that. And I think it's actually, if a client wants to write their own ads, that's brilliant, as long as they are open to being talked through how they can make it. It might be brilliant, but as long as they are open to being talked through how to make it better and make it work harder for them, I think it's a good insight into how they perceive their business.
Yeah. It's actually, the shorter the thing you've got to write, the more difficult it is, isn't it?
Yeah, to make that really clear and concise. That's often the thing that I've had clients struggle with, is that they'll go, I'll write the ad, and we've gone, okay, that's great. You know, my job can be more as an editor, and I can kind of help kind of angle this and what's that great thing that was it Michelangelo said, you know, that the statue of David was always there, he just had to like chisel away at the block. You know, I'm Michelangelo in this situation. But it's great if a client wants to be involved in the creative process, and I would encourage it, but they need to work with the creative process to get the best out of it.
And to be honest, if there's a client who is absolutely dead set on making his own ads, you're not going to persuade him with the best ad in the world. So I say he, it could be a she or a they, I don't know.
As writers, I'd be very interested to know how you go about the thinking process, because sometimes a script will come to me pretty quickly. Sometimes it'll be days before it comes. Sometimes I'll have written 6 iterations before I finally land on the right one. How does it generally go for you guys?
With some struggle, I think. It can be hard. To like, especially we were talking earlier about not having people to kind of bounce ideas off of. I think I work best when I worked writing in a partnership with another copywriter, or working with, you know, outside of radio with art workers and graphic designers. That's where creativity thrives. So yeah, these things take time. That's why they're really hard to get right. But if the brief is really good and it's got all the right information in there, it can be really inspiring, and you look at it and you go, I know exactly what this client needs, and I know exactly how to give it to them. And more often than not, you give it to them and they're like, oh great, or like, just change this one thing, and you're off to the races. I love those. I wish they were all like that.
I agree that having at least one other person to bounce ideas off is absolutely essential, because you could be going down a road and then they just say one thing and it might not actually be the answer, but it sends you off down a different path. And that is brilliant. And I would also say never, ever, ever just send your first one off. Sit on it, sit there, let it go, come back a couple of hours later, look at it again and go, oh, actually, yes, how about doing that way instead?
And actually, it's also about economy of words. One of the first things I learned was, you're right, never present the first draft, but put the first draft aside for a day, come back to it and work out what words you don't need, because there will be some, won't there?
And that also raises in my mind the thing of deadlines. The more a time crunch on the creative to getting it to air, the more rush that's going to be. It's great if you can have a day or two to just let those ideas percolate, or get some ideas over to the client and give them time to kind of give the right feedback. If that deadline period is crunched, then the whole campaign is going to suffer.
You're right about the word count. It's essential that you write your words, you cut your words, and then you go back and cut again, because you have to be economical with your words, and every single word you write has to work as hard as it can.
And actually, I've learned to underwrite every time. So if I'm writing a 30-second ad, I'll write to 28. Or less if there's music and sound effects involved, obviously. But if it's pure text, wall-to-wall words, which I don't particularly like all the time, but if it is to be, then I will underwrite. Because when you get into the studio and you're directing the voice, you want to give them a bit of freedom to perform, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you are writing and you're writing to a duration, a time, always read it aloud with a stopwatch. Don't read it under your breath. Don't read it in your head. It doesn't work. You have to perform it in order to have a proper idea of exactly how long it's going to take when you get into the studio.
And actually, that's the way to present a script to the client, isn't it? Don't just email the script to the client. Perform it down the phone, on a call, face-to-face, whatever it is. That has to be the way to do it, because it's an audio medium we're talking about here. It has to be consumed through the ears before they look at the page.
That's absolutely right. And I have a story about what happened to a colleague of mine many moons ago, who was writing an ad for a pet shop. And this was in the days of faxes, and the script was faxed over to the client. Now, bearing in mind the client had a long discussion with my colleague about exactly what he wanted in his ad, and it was going to be a dog. One of the dogs in the pet shop was going to be talking. So, of course, my colleague wrote a script dutifully around this dog, presenting whatever the message was for the pet shop, faxed it over. It all got signed off, approved, brilliant. So he went into the studio and he voiced it, and he sent the final ad to the client, and the client was absolutely apoplectic. And he said, "What is this? What have you made? That isn't a Chihuahua, that is a German Shepherd speaking, and that's not what was in my head at all." And until you've actually performed it and explained how it's going to sound to somebody, they will have something else completely different in their head.
And also, I thought that it was going to be a point of like pronunciation as well. Like you could just on the page, oh, that's how that's said. It might be totally crucial to the understanding of the business, and in the booth we don't know that, and it's mispronounced. So 100% perform your ads.
So we've got a script. Next step is to cast the voice or voices. We'll look at how we nail that in episode 9. Are the vocals right? To make sure you don't miss that, just follow or subscribe to the show. And it would be great if you could rate and review us too. For any questions or more info about audio advertising, just visit trisonic.co.uk.